go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom! And welcome to the Big Honker Podcast, brought to you by Boss Shot Shells. I'm Jeff Stanfield with the world-famous Andy Shaver.
Check out Boss Shot Shells. They got the new dove loads out. We've been shooting those. They are the real deal, and their new copper-plated line should be coming
Anytime.
Should be available anytime.
With us today from Joplin, Missouri, the Shelby State, Mr. Aaron Gamble, coon hunter. This is going to be new for us. I don't know much about coon hunting. How you doing, Aaron?
Good. Very good.
Is coon hunting I know it's not as popular as it used to be because of trespassing laws. Is it getting harder and harder because of the trespassing laws?
Yes, that's part of the problem. Honestly, the deer hunters are our biggest problem. I know that sounds crazy, but deer hunters are really our biggest enemy. They rent too much ground, they lease it up, then they don't want nobody on it. You know, the antis run around and try to pass stupid laws, and sometimes they get them, sometimes they don't. But these deer hunters go in, you know, Kansas is a horrible state. They lease everything up, and then they tell everybody they can't hunt, which, I mean, I get it because they're paying money, and they watch too many of these silly hunting shows, and they think if a hound's on their property, that means the deer are all gone and they can't never kill another deer again. But to me, they are our biggest enemy, and that's sad to say that other hunters are our biggest enemy, but they are.
Yeah, I think that's deer hunting has happened everywhere, and it's affected all hunting. I know waterfowl hunting, especially in Oklahoma, a lot of those places where guys could get permission to go on a wheat field to shoot geese and ducks, they don't let you because, well, we've already got the deer hunters are paying good money for it, and the deer hunters don't want them in there, and I get that. So that makes a big difference.
Yes.
So
they're horrendous. And what happens, I think these deer hunters do is they sit back and they watch, like I said earlier, they watch these hunting shows, you know, and they got to buy these ozonics and all this for no cent and on and on and on, because all these companies are promoting this nonsense. Let's be serious. Most of it's nonsense. And they get it in their head that, you know, if a deer hears a dog or smells you coming through in the night or something, they think the deer's going to up and run off to the next county and never come home. And the whole time, what tickles me as a hound hunter is our hounds that are just treeing a coon's going to run their deer off, but yet all the coyotes running around ain't going to run their deer off.
Never thought of it that way.
The coyotes are trying to kill the deer, and our hounds ain't. But yet, some reason, it's our hounds that kill their deer, and not the coyotes out there. It's really odd to me. But I like I said, I think people's got too much nonsense being brainwashed with these hounds. You know, I took guys coon hunting. I'd take you guys coon hunting and show you. You know, I took guys hunting, and we'll walk beside a bunch of deer bedded down in the field, and they're like, well, I thought they would. Why ain't they scared? Why ain't they running off? I'm like, because you've been watching too much TV and too much crap, and they, you don't know. You know, and it's not that they're stupid or what. They don't know. All they hear is deer hunters talking and them hunting shows, and they believe it. You know, I'm gonna tell a story now. A few years ago, I called an old boy, and he let me hunt. My dog got about 900 yards out. It was late December, January, I'm guessing. It was coon season, and the bucks had bachelors back up, you know. And his kids had never been hunting. He said, well, I'm going to take 2 boys. They want to go see the hounds. So we was walking through a patch of woods, and I looked over to my right, and there was about 8 bucks. There's all bucks, about 60 yards from us. And they were like, the boys were like, why ain't they running? Why ain't they running off? You know, and I said, because they're not scared. It's dark. Mm-hmm. And we walked there about 900 yards, shot a coon out, got the dog, come out. The deer, half of them were bedded down. Some of them were still standing up. A lot of them were bedded down, and we walked right back by them. You know, and they were amazed, and I, you know, I didn't say too much to them, especially because they was like 10 years, 12 years old. But that's the problem. People just they've got this premonition that any little thing is going to run them deer off. You know, I also do construction work. You know, we cut a lot of subdivisions in around, or used to, not anymore, around Springfield, Missouri. You know, and we would go in and start clearing trees and cutting easements for sewer lines. And a lot of the guys would bow hunt. You know, we would bow hunt in there. You couldn't rifle hunt because it was too close to town. But we would bow hunt in there. And guys, you couldn't run the deer out until the last tree was tore down. Right. That's their home. That's where they live. They're not leaving.
You make a good point with the coyote. I've never heard it articulated that way, but it makes a lot of sense. I wonder if they just see the videos and the, you know, with they're worried about the coon hounds barking and creating a ruckus and all that other stuff. Is that where it comes from, I guess?
That's I guess. I don't really know. They just, you know, I honestly, I don't know where that comes from. You know, I've got, I mean, if you get on like the coon hunting Facebook pages, there's guys, especially this time of year, there's guys on there posting all the time, walking through the woods and a big old buck laying over there, and they'll show it bedded down, you know, 50 yards and they'll walk, and you can hear the hound treat and the buck's still laying down.
Mm-hmm.
And they just go get their dog and leave, and the buck don't even get out of his bed, you know. But it's just, well, like I said, they've been brainwashed into believing that just any little old anything will booger them deer up.
Right.
But yet, like I said, they never in their brain it never hits them that, hey, there's a pack of coyotes there, and they're actually trying to kill the deer.
Right. Well, it's the same with like
and they don't put it together.
Same with like turkey hunting for me. You know what I mean? Like I'm in and out of the woods, and I spook deer up, and they run a little bit, and they bed down, and next day they're right there again blowing at me as I'm walking in to try to shoot these turkeys.
Absolutely. Dude, it's their home. That's where they live.
Right.
That's where they live. I mean, that's where he's grew up his whole life is right there. He's not leaving. You know, when I was a kid, talking about hounds, you know, when I was a kid, the guys run running dogs, which most guys, coyote dogs, running dogs, whatever you want to call them, we always call it running dogs. But we would run coyotes north of Hurley, Missouri, in between Hurley and Clever. And they'd have 30 hounds loose every Sunday. Now, not during the summer because it's too hot, but all fall, a lot of times through winter, there'd be 30 hounds, 40 hounds loose at a time. And them things will run deer. They run them bad. Actually, they'll run about anything that walks.
Mm.
And they would run the deer, and guess what? Next Sunday we'd go back, and guess what? They'd run all the deer again. You know,
right.
Next Sunday we'd run them again. They never left. You know, and like I said, we'd have 30. You know, there'd be 10 or 12 guys, and all of them would have 8 or 10 hounds. Now they wouldn't always turn 8 or 10 loose because it's, you know, they'd turn 2 or 3 loose, and then gather them up and then turn 2 or 3 more loose because they'd run all day. But there'd always be 20 or 30 hounds loose. And like I said, we'd run the hell out of them deer, and hell far come Sunday, guess what? We'd run them all again, you know? But to deer hunters' sake, well, they're gone. You know, they're just going to leave the county up and leave and never come back. And they're not full of it. They're just misguided. And I don't think they quite understand, that it's not reckoning they're deer. And then I get a kick out of the deer hunters too. They gripe about the corn, that the coons are eating my corn, they're eating my corn. And then you say, well, hey, can I come over and kill the coon? No, can't do that.
Right.
You know, and then they sit and bitch the whole time. It's like, well, then, you know, and the same thing with the turkey hunters, man, the coons are tearing my turkey eggs up. Well, can I come and kill them and hunt them? Nope, can't do that. You know, that hound may run my turkey off.
Run your turkey
you know,
off.
I don't know. It's just kind of silly.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
In your years of coon chasing, what's the weirdest shit you've ever come across when your dog's treat or anything?
Well, I don't know if this is the weirdest, but one of the silliest things that I remember that ever happened is I was probably 12. I was with some older gentlemen, and one of them was my uncle, and one of them passed away. He got me into coon hunting, and we had treed and there was a big nest in the tree, and there was something black in it, and it was coon season, and we was looking at it, and we thought it was kind of blackish color, and I shot and hit it, and it was a pileated woodpecker, and it rolled out backwards. We didn't even know what it was when I shot it. Now, of course, hopefully I don't get in trouble for that. Hell, that was 35 years ago.
Right.
But that thing come out rolling backwards, and when it hit the ground, the dogs, of course, jumped. You know, they thought it was a coon, and then they stood there for a second, and then went back to treeing. But that's one of the kind of the weirdest and silliest things I've ever seen. That's one of them. You know, honestly, I've treated some bobcats, not very many. You know, I've heard of guys. I had a friend that this didn't happen to me, but we was down hunting at Avon, and we was down by a house, and a year before that, they were down there hunting and had just left by a house, and it wasn't long after they left, the old boy murdered his woman.
Oh no.
So that was kind of a crazy deal. And he was telling us that we was sitting there turned loose. He said, yeah, here not long ago. He said, we literally just left, and the old boy killed I don't know if it's his wife or girlfriend, you know. That was, but like I said, I wasn't there, but I was there later, you know, at the place hunting. I'm trying to think. You kind of caught me off guard there asking me that kind of a question.
You ever seen?
You know,
You ever seen something you didn't know what it was out there?
No, not in the daytime. We've never seen Bigfoot. We've never heard. I've never heard anything that like some sort of a cryptid. No, never. I've heard beaver splash, and people mistake that for cryptids and stuff because they don't know what it is. They think something's throwing rocks in the water, but all that is the beaver slapping its tail on the river. Years ago, I'll tell a crazy story. It happened to a relative of mine. We was at a place called Hawkins Bridge, and there's a cave up the river, up the Finley, and there was devil worshippers would go up there. And this guy, we was hunting, and we'd pull down and was looking up a hay bottom that would run up along the river, and we seen a flashlight, and that guy said, look, you see that light over there? I was pretty young. I was probably 16 or 17, probably 15, 16 at the time, and you could see them going up that cave, and he said, there's a cave up there, and devil worshippers go up there. But before that, sometime before that, he said him and I can't remember who he was hunting with, they had pulled down there and stopped to listen to the hounds trail up Finley River, and the guy said, everything was quiet, nothing was going on, and he said, I turned my coon light on and shined up the bottom, and he said there was a group of people in a circle sitting in the bottom, not far from the fence. He said, scared the living hell out of us. And he said they jumped up and went to yelling, and he said we got in the truck and left. So honestly, out of all the crazy stories I've heard people talk about coon hunting, that's probably one of the craziest ones ever. But I guess I'm going to say I'm fortunate enough that I have not had, too many crazy things like that. I've had people shoot at us, come out and shoot a shotgun up in the air. Luckily, I've never had a dog killed by a person. Knock on wood. I know some guys that have, but luckily I've never had anybody. I had one of my old good hounds, a grand champion. I didn't know this till he was on his deathbed. I had him x-rayed, and he had a shotgun pellet in his right side in his deal. But when the vet put the x-ray up, he said somebody shot him, and I said that dog's never been shot, and he said, well, he has too. And you can see the pellet about 1.5 to 2 inches inside of his rib cage.
Oh, damn!
You can see it just plain as day. I never knew the dog had been shot, but somebody had shot him with a shotgun. But I never, and he never did show it physically either. So it tells you how tough them suckers are. That he never knew it until, like I said, till I seen that X-ray.
Do y'all have bears where you are?
Yes, we are starting to get bears. I know nobody that's treed any. I know down in Arkansas they'll tree one occasionally. But as far as all the coon hunters I've talked to in Missouri, I've not heard any tree a bear yet. I mean, it's coming because we've got plenty of bear. I mean, we started a bear season, I think 5 years ago, give or take 5 years ago, they started a bear season. But I've not heard any hunter talk about treeing a bear. I've heard a few think they maybe ran one, just because it was different, because we can tell when we run a deer, a coyote, or a coon, normally you can tell what the hound's doing. But I've heard guys say they run something and they suspected it was a bear. Is probably what they were running. But I don't know if anybody personally or even heard of anybody saying they treat a bear. But it's going to happen because, like I said, we're getting more and more every single year, which is a good thing, I think, because I'd like to hunt them some more myself. But
what's crazy with the bear thing is, like, if they just realized that they could take on that dog, they got nothing to be afraid of.
No, yeah, you're 100% right. But it's I think it's kind of like one of them deals where, if you get a little old Jack Russell Terrier, he can jump on a Rottweiler and scare it. I think it's kind of the same principle.
Right.
I don't think I think it's, they're not used to being challenged, and then when they get challenged, they don't know how to handle it. You know what I'm saying? They just, it kind of blows their mind when they have something after them. Kind of like the same thing when you see a little old terrier or a weenie dog jump on a big dog and the big dog runs. I don't think they can't comprehend that little dog would be they just ain't. They're used to being the big man on campus, I guess, to be the word I'd say.
Right. Right. And then
when the hound
gets after that ass, they don't know how to handle it other than run.
They don't know how to handle it. That, you corner them and they'll, I'm sure they'll fight, but they'll run. Talking about animals and fighting, people, coyotes and coons, of course I've coon hunted my whole life. And, if you take a coon and put them in a cage, I'd put, all them little metal traps out, not footholds, but like live trap. put a live trap out, and you catch a big old boar coon or a big sow, it don't matter. I've been walking to them in the woods and be 20 or 30 feet away, and they're already hitting the cage, bumping it, growling. They're ready to fight.
Mm-hmm.
And I went over to a friend of ours. He had a fox pen where they put, they call it fox pen, but they actually run coyotes in it. They put coyotes in a high fence and run them with their hounds. And he had 10 coyotes they had snared, and they was going to turn them loose in the pen. And they had them in a little old box trailer, and the guy opened the trailer up, and the coyotes laid in the corner. They hid. They tucked their heads and would hide. And I told him, I said, I'm going to tell you right now, if you opened that door up and that was 10 coons in there, I said, I promise you, you wouldn't have to watch them hide in the corner because they'd be coming out of there with all they got. It really struck me odd that them coyotes were so passive and so timid that they literally laid in the huddle, hiding their eyes, and just it was really weird to watch them. And then it was funny that my cousin pulled one out by the tail, and it was asphalt, and the coyote like burnt rubber peeling out with its feet on the concrete, and he let go of its tail and it run off. and again, I told him, I said, dude, if that was a boar coon, you had him by the tail like that, he would be up in your face. He wouldn't even remotely have turned and tried to run. He'd have fought you. Right. And it was just really weird how passive the coyote was compared to a coon, because they're kind of like they ain't scared of nothing. You know what I'm saying? They'll fight.
What's the biggest?
Especially an old boar coon.
What's the biggest coon you've seen?
The biggest I probably have ever seen was a few years ago, and it was 26 pounds. And I don't normally weigh them because you don't sell them anymore, so it don't really mean nothing. But it was so damn big. I actually took it home and weighed it, and it was. Now I had a bathroom scale, and I got on with it, and then then didn't weigh it, and it weighed 26 pounds. And now it was a whopper. I've heard a few guys over the years get 30 pounders here. Now you go up Minnesota and Canada where it's really cold, northern Iowa, Wisconsin, where they have to really put a lot of fat on for the winter. They'll get 40 pounds, but here a 30 pounder is about as big as you're ever. I don't think in 33, 4 years I've coon hunted, I have never seen the 30-pound coon ever.
Well, with the with people don't buy fur hardly anymore. Is the coon population blowing up like it is? Here we've got coons everywhere now.
It is absolutely insane how many coons there are now. It's unreal. Arkansas is year round now. Texas, I think, is year round. Oklahoma went to year round. We added 3 months. That 2 years ago, I think we added 3 months onto our coon season because the waterfowl people, the turkey people, they're nest raiders, and they want the population. But it's unreal. I've got a creek below my house that I hunt on, and there was corn in it. The field's kind of oblong shape, but it's probably 30 acres. And a few years ago, we went down there at midnight on a late round on a comp hunt, and we seen 23 coons sitting around it, just that one field, 23 of them.
And that's not counting all the ones in town.
Yeah, that ain't counting what was over the next hill or on down the creek and on the other up the creek. That was just one 30-acre cornfield. There was 23 that we seen, 23 coon in that one field. So just do the math. If 23 of them got 5 turkey eggs apiece, you can do the math there.
Yeah,
you're talking almost 100 turkey eggs gone. 100, geese are up and down the creek. You can imagine how much crap they would destroy.
They have definitely come back in vengeance, and nobody does nothing with them. I've seen this new now where they do these varmint calls. They sound like raccoons, and people go out and do them during the day, and them suckers are aggressive, and they'll attack the call.
Oh yeah. It's really weird because, like I said, most people don't realize a coon is that aggressive. It's pretty insane. But yes, the coon population is. Which we like it. Let me say that we're coon hunters, so we enjoy it. Back in the 70s, now of course I was born in 79, so I don't remember, but I've heard the old timers talk back when coon was $40 a whack. Mm-hmm. Dude, they said you had to take a number to get into a hunting spot. Right. Because everybody was coon hunting.
What were they using them pelts for back in the day?
I think a lot of them went to Russia and stuff like that, and they would make coats and stuff out of them. of course, I'm guess. Well, a lot of it was the animal activist. Fur fell off, and then I'm guessing on this because I don't know, but I'm going to say synthetic clothing. People, they start coming out with synthetics in them cold climates, and they don't necessarily have to have that fur anymore as part of it too. Would be the reason. But them guys back in the 60s, 70s when them coon were like that, dude, they didn't even have to work. If they went, if me and you went coon hunting tonight back then and killed two $40 coon, that's $80. Right. Them guys were working for what, $1.25, 1970?
Yeah.
Go all day, work a 10-hour shift to make $1.25, so they made 11 or 12 bucks for the whole day, or they could go coon hunting and kill one $40 coon.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it was. So, everybody and their brother, or trappers, you had trappers too, but that was the same way. There was an old man from the O show, and he would leave. I talked to him. I bought his book, but he would leave and go all the way to Wisconsin. He would coon hunt to Wisconsin and run traps. He said, I'd sleep in my camper, and he put his stuff, like all his junk he had, and he would sleep up. He said, my face would almost be the top of the camper. And he said, I would coon hunt all night. And he said, then I'd get up in the morning and run my traps. And he said, then I had to skin all of them. And he would make that big old circle. And that's how he made a living, instead of working. So that they really kept the coon population. And possums too, skunks. I mean, anything that bared fur, they were after. But, if you think about it, gas, I'm gonna guess here. Gas is, let's say, I'm just going to compare it to gas. It's probably 50 cents a gallon. Mm-hmm. Now it's $3 a gallon. If coon were 40 cents when the gas was 50, and if you done the inflation, kind of exchange there, that would put coon 50 cents on 6, so that'd be six times. So if you had a coon now at 6 times at $40, that'd be $240 coon. Now, how many people you think would coon hunt if coons were $240 a night?
A lot.
Hide.
A ton.
Yeah. A lot
of people.
Everybody would coon hunt.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, you think about it. You could go to work, in a factory and make, $20 an hour, 10 hours, $200 a day, or go kill one coon for $240.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, people, it would be, everybody would be coon hunting again. Is what would happen. I personally, I don't want coons to get that high. I'll be honest with you guys. If coon got to $40 a hide, you would have so many people coon hunting, it wouldn't even be funny. Just at $40.
Right. That would make it harder for you too. That would make it harder for you too. That would make it harder for you too. Yeah.
Yes. I will say this. I would like coons to get $40 or $50 for like 2 years. And the reason I would like it just for a couple years, I don't need everybody coon hunting, but I would like for everybody to understand coon hunting. Mm. And if coons got to $40 or $50, you're talking them 16-year-old kids at school, they would get into trapping, they would start coon hunting. A lot of older people would get back into it that quit when the price fell. Your local farmers, or these deer hunters, when they go out and they look at their trail camera and there's 10 coon on their corn, you're sitting there thinking, dude, there's $400 worth of coon standing there on my corn pile. And like I said, I don't want it to last forever because our coon population would collapse again like it was, where it was hard to treat coons. But it would be nice for people to wake up and realize what's going on. Hey, we're not scaring the deer off. We're not doing, what I'm saying? It would, a lot of people, especially, here, say the city of Joplin, they would never get it. But nobody coon hunts in the city anyway. But all your rural people, your younger kids it would really help to understand what we're doing. That's my opinion. Is that true? I don't know, but I do. I think you would see a lot of people and people would realize. Because now, guys, when they see guys walking across the back 40 with a light, they think of cattle thieves and meth heads.
Yeah, I would think meth heads would be number one on that list.
Yeah. That's what they're thinking. Thieves and meth heads and cattle thieving. That's what they come to their mind. Well, back in the 70s, 80s, people knew. They stuck their head out the window. Oh, I hear a hound. I see a light. They're coon hunting. I'm going back to bed. Now they hear the dog. They don't have any clue what's going on because most people don't even know what coon hunting is. So they see the light and they're thinking, well, there's a meth head out there trying to steal my battery out of my tractor. But if we could get some high coon prices, I would I would think it would help the newer people, because when we go on farms or accidentally get on people that like are in their 70s and 80s, most of the time they're pretty cool because they know, they've been around, they know what coon hunting is. A lot of them are like, hey, my dad coon hunted or my uncle coon hunted, and I get it. But it's the newer generations, they ain't been around it. They don't know what's going on. And all they're thinking of is like I said, stealing, drugging, or hey, you're scaring my deer off. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So personally, I would like the coon prices to go up for a while, not forever. Cause like I said, it would be a mass slaughter if they went back to $40 a hide.
So what do you do with your coons when you shoot them?
Really nothing anymore. There's nothing to do with them. But now I don't kill a whole lot of coon. It's coon season right now, and coon season opened up Missouri August the 1st. I can't even tell you for sure if I've even killed one yet.
Oh wow.
So I may have knocked my female out one the first week of season, maybe, but that's how many I've killed. I've got to sit here and think about it.
Right.
Now there's some guys, I know guys that will kill every coon they tree year round, don't matter if it's season or not. Every coon they tree they kill, which I mean that's whatever. I don't care. I don't care about that honestly. When I was a kid, we'd like to knock them out and watch dogs fight them. I could care less about that anymore. I'm past that. I do not care about the dog fighting the coon. It does nothing for me. I enjoy the hounds and treeing. I enjoy comp hunting, but killing the coon absolutely means nothing to me. Honestly, if I could never kill another coon again and my dogs would stay good, I would barely ever kill another coon again in my life. But young dogs, I'm guessing if you guys goose hunt, right? Because
yes,
called
sir.
Honker's podcast.
Yep.
Yes, I'm guessing you guys, when your dog gets a hold of that goose, that's a reward for that dog.
Yes, sir.
That's what it enjoys doing. Same with our hounds. The young dogs especially, they need a coon every so often. Keeps them interested and it shows them what they're after and stuff. I'll knock a few out, but I don't knock a whole lot of coon out because I mean, there's just really no reason to, honestly. That's just my opinion.
What about a bobcat? You ever come into that?
I have treed 1 or 2 bobcats in my life.
That's it then.
That is it. One night we treed one at Hurley on top of the hill, and they knocked it out and sold it. And my dog actually didn't even tree it. He's straight. He won't tree nothing but a coon. And 2 dogs treed a bobcat. He got down the ridge and got a coon treed. And I had a bobcat there. And then a few years before that, one of my hounds treed a tree, and beside it was a bobcat hanging on the side of the tree. And I don't know honestly if he treated or not. I think he did, but he wasn't on the right tree. So I don't know if he was winding it or just actually treated a coon, and there just happened to be a bobcat hanging on the side of the tree.
Right.
So,
but
I've never had.
What about skunks?
Oh, I ain't had a skunk in a long time, but yes, I've had dogs that get skunks, and it's horrendous. Years ago, I had a young bitch. I had a young bitch, and the old man was probably in his 70s. Then his name was Mick Gilmore. He's dead. My God, he was the funniest man. He was absolutely the best man to ever hunt with. He was 80 years old and died living with his mom. He never lived nowhere but with his mom his whole entire life.
He was how old when he died?
I think 82.
And his mom was still alive?
Yes.
God almighty.
Yes. He was, yes, and she could get around, and his name was Mick Gilmore, and he could get around, and my God, he was the funniest little old man. Absolutely, you could not help but have a good time with him, but he was never married. The only time he did not live at home, best I remember, was when he was in World War II and was in Germany. But other than that, he lived his whole entire life with his mom and dad. His dad was dead, and he'd coon hunt every night, and I'd go with him, and but he was absolutely hilarious, and I kind of got sidetracked on my point. But,
he had a skunk.
Oh, we was talking about skunks. Yeah, skunks. We went out to Lockwood one night, and my bitch and his dog, and we had another guy there named Jerry. He was a preacher, and we caught 3 skunks that night, and that that stupid bitch of mine stunk so damn bad that he had to lead her out by the end. I could not take it. Speaking of skunks, we had no boy come. We had a comp hunt. This guy I'm not going to mention his name. If they hear this podcast, they'll know who I'm talking about. He shows up in his wife's very nice, not a car, but not a minivan.
SUV.
Yes, SUV. Showed up in his wife's very nice SUV, and his dog's in the front seat, passenger seat, riding with him. Which, to me, that was stupid because, letting an old stinking coon hound ride in the front seat in your wife's fancy car. But anyway, here he pulled in. We go hunting. The dog's name was Monkey. He called it Monkey. And this sumbitch shakes a skunk. Stinks like hammered hell. And I said, hey, do you want me to haul that dog home for you? He said, no, I got a vehicle. He put this is no lie, he put that stinking skunky bastard in the front seat of his wife's fancy vehicle, and out of there he went home. And we laughed. I cannot believe he done that. But anyway, that was one of the stupidest things I ever seen at a coon hunt, where a man hauled a skunky dog home in his wife's car in the front seat. He did it.
I bet she was madder than hell the next morning. Woo!
She ought to be, because guys, there ain't no telling how many days it took to get that smell out of that stupid car. Especially when I volunteered to have, because I got a dog box, of course. I'm like, I'll haul your dog home for you.
Yeah.
Nope, he puts him in the front seat and hauled his ass home. Out of his wife's car. So I thought,
what's a good coon dog cost?
Guys, a good coon dog now. A friend of mine that lives over at Seneca, he sold a third of his dog for $40,000.
Whoa! Wow, a third of it.
For a third. Scott Engel had a dog. He's from Ohio. He had a dog for sale here. That was last year, and it was 7 years old. And if I'm doing this by memory, I'm pretty sure he had $100,000 on it.
What are the straws selling for on it?
Oh, 1,000, 1,200.
Goodness.
When I was a kid, guys, 2,500 was good money for a hound. Good money. Like the guy that got me into coon hunting went and give 2,200 for a blue hound, a blue tick, and that was unheard of. Nobody give that kind of money. It was kind of unheard of, but now. A friend of mine in Oklahoma had a world champion, and he bred the bitch to a world champion, and he had all the pups booked for $5,000 before they was even born, all of them. She didn't have no puppies. She slipped them, but he had like 8 of them booked for $5,000. Had $40,000 worth of pups ready to go.
Wow.
It is insane. But the dog that I just mentioned, they tried to sell for $100,000. You got to understand something. He was just almost fixing to break 500,000 in winnings.
Ooh.
That's why he was worth so much. The dog from Seneca that they sold for 40, he had won the world hunt and won 30. He won a pickup not long ago. So the cash prices have really, really super exploded in the last 15 years, probably, maybe a little longer, but the big prices have went up. They have probably $500,000 or $600,000 hunts a year for first place.
Mm-hmm.
They have countless truck hunts now. Matter of fact, a guy named Dual Murphy just won one of them, a Jeep. It's a Jeep Commander or whatever it is. It's some sort of a Jeep truck. He just won it last weekend in Arkansas. I seen it on Facebook. A hunt, and it was the first place was a 3/4 ton pickup, a trailer, and a brand new skid steer.
Good night.
First place.
Wow.
So I was figuring $120,000 because I'm figuring 50, 60 for the truck minimum, and then 60 to 80,000 for the skid steer.
How much is the entry fee?
I don't know where. Anywhere from $35 to $10,000.
So I'm assuming the one that was giving away that kind of prize was a $10,000 entry fee.
No, it was not. It was not. It was you're going to make a liar out of me, but it was 2,500, I think.
What do you? Okay, now how do you? I've been to a lot of dog trials, but I've never been to a coon trial. How does it go? The winning, does it go by time? What? How does this work?
Okay. Let's pretend there's 100 dogs there.
Okay.
That way it's an even number. They put them in 4-dog casts. So if you have 100 dogs, they're going to have 25 casts. And so you got these 4-dog casts, and the only dogs that can advance is the dogs that win their cast. So say me and you and your co-host and somebody else is on a cast, and we go hunt, and say I win. I'm able to get placement. You three are done. You cannot do nothing. Same way with the next cast. Only the cast winners. So you're going to have 25 cast winners. Either if it's a final 4, then they'll take the top 4 highest scoring dogs, or they'll take those 25, hunt them again until they get down to a final 4, and then the final 4 will hunt for the main prizes. You know what I'm saying? It's all by time. You cannot kill anything. It does not matter if it's coon season. You cannot kill a coon. You cannot bring a gun to kill a coon. There's no killing anything. Matter of fact, if you was to whip your dog, say we went to a hunt and you guys showed up and you got out and whipped your dog real bad, we could have you barred. You're not to whip your dog. You can't yell at your dog. You can't discipline your dog. All you can do is turn it loose and handle it. You know what I'm saying? So it's a timed event. You normally hunt an hour or 90 minutes or 2 hours. That's the 3 breakdowns of time. So let's say it's a 2-hour. Well, let's go with a 2-hour event. So say me and you and your co-host there and somebody else is on a cast. You get 100 points for first strike. You get 75 for second, 50 for third, and 25 for last.
A strike
tree is 120. Is
a strike when the dog barks that gets on a trail?
Yes.
Okay.
When you turn the dogs loose, when they start opening, you strike your dog, because it's in the dark, so nobody can see the dog. So the handler will tell the judge in the cast, hey, strike so-and-so. And then say your dog would strike, then you would say, hey, strike so-and-so. And the judge, so you'd get 75 and I would get 100. And say your co-host would say, hey, strike my hound. Then he would get 50 and then the next person would get 25. Now them points are pending, because there's not coon treed yet. So say a dog gets treed, I would say tree, let's say rock. I would say tree rock. So he would get 125 put down. 125, 75, 50, and 25 for tree.
Mm-hmm.
I would say tree rock. So they would put 3-minute time on him. That dog has to stay treed 3 minutes. Plus, your dog can tree on that same tree. Your dog can go tree with mine. So say your dog gets there in 10 seconds after I say tree rock, and you said, hey, tree so-and-so, then you would get 75 points, pending, of course. Then say your co-host there would say, hey, my dog's there, tree my hound, then he would get 50. So then the tree's dead, the 3 minutes is up, we go to the tree, you tie all the dogs up, you don't leave them loose, you tie all the dogs up, and the judge says, go ahead and shine, and you get 8 minutes to look for a coon. That's all you get is 8 minutes. So you go to shining, if say you find a coon. So I had first strike and first tree, so I'd be 100 plus 125, so it'd be 2 1/4 would be my plus points. You had, let's say, second strike and second tree, so you would have 75 and 75, that's 150. Then say your co-host there had third strike and third tree, he would have 100 plus. Then we would walk a certain distance, recut them. Sometimes you will move, but anymore you would recut them. Say we recut them, and then you would strike them back in, and if they tree a coon, you tree them in. Now let's say we go in there and there's a possum instead of a coon. If it was a possum and not a coon, I would get 225 minus. You would get 170. Wow. 75. So you would get 150 minus, and then your co-host would get 100 minus. Okay. If a possum, bobcat, say the tree's little bitty and it's a bush, and you can plainly tell there's no coon in it, that's also gets minused. So the key is treeing a coon, of course. Now, if it's in the summertime like now where the trees are really got a lot of foliage and there could be a coon, but you don't find one, or you don't find off game, which would be anything but a coon, then you just get circle points. And circle points just means basically nothing. Only thing that will do is help you in a tiebreaker.
What if someone's coon dog sound? What if the dogs sound a lot alike? Because there's got to be some. I know you know your dog's bark, but there's got to be times that it's shit. I think that's old Buck, but it may not be.
Once in a while that will happen, but most of the time people's under their hound enough that normally you can tell. But now I have been on a hunt or two where two dogs sound just the damn alike that the two handlers are having trouble, and you just got to do the best you can. But say, let's go back and we turn the dogs loose. Say your dog opens and I say, strike rock. And you say, hey, Judge, that's my dog. That ain't Aaron's. And then it barks again. You're like, oh yeah, that's not Aaron's dog. Then I get 100 minus. Because I would get 100 minus. Say, or if I struck in for second, which is 75, I would get set. Whatever I would struck in for, they would immediately minus me for that because I basically because you're stealing points from you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I would get minus, and then I would have to strike the right dog. You do it so many times, you're out of the hunt. You can only do it so many times. You just can't sit there and strike the man's dog all night long. So you get minus for that. If the dogs say they strike in, they're trailing, they shut up. If you put 6 minutes on them, and if nothing barks in 6 minutes, the track is declared dead, and you get minus. So whatever, say all four dogs are struck in for 100, 75, 50, 25. If the six catches them, then they all get minus. So whoever's got first strike would get 100. Then the second, and then you would have to restrike them back in. It's pretty. It's kind of different. If you've ever been to bird dog trials or beagles or whatever, you get to visually see the dogs. You visually see running rabbits. You see the dog, and then there's the rabbit, in front of the dog. You get to visually see it all. Coon hunting is especially calm. It's almost more like listening to the radio versus watching TV. I know it's kind of a silly comparison.
Right.
But, when you watch TV, you see the actors and you hear them. And then when you watch radio, all you hear is their voice.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of way coon hunting is, comp hunting. It's almost like listening to the radio versus rabbit hunting or running dogs or like you said, the bird dog trials where everybody can actually visually see it. So it's a different thing. And there's handlers. There's good handlers. I would call them professional handlers that are very good handling. They're calculating all the things that are going through their mind. How much, if say me and you're running neck and neck and we both have 200 plus and the hunt's about over and we strike a coon and we're trailing it, then you got to be thinking, hey, I got to have first tree to beat this guy. Say you got first strike and I've got second strike, but I have to have first tree to beat you, if they get tree together and have a coon. So you got to be thinking, okay, I've got to have first tree on this coon if I can. Now, sometimes your dog doesn't get first tree, but if they're really jamming a coon, you got to be thinking about that. It's kind of a thinking man's game in a way. You got to know the rules, and then you got to know how to apply them because there's a ton of rules. Because it's done in the dark, nobody can see what's going on. So there's a ton of rules, and it's a thinking man's game in a way. I mean, you got to have a good hound, and they got to be getting coons treed. They got to be efficient with their time. You can't have a dog out there jackassing around half the night and then trying to tree a coon. Right. They need to be, when you turn that dog loose, he needs to, or her, they need to be thinking, I got to get under a coon. As soon as they turn me loose, I got to get under another coon. It's hard to beat a dog like that. And then you got to, and then one that's accurate. That some dogs just tree. Some dogs are tree happy, and the bastards will just run out there and just tree, just for whatever. They're just tree happy, and they'll just tree, and they don't have a coon, and that don't win hunts. Coons win hunts. There's a lot more rules, but it would take me forever to explain them all, and honestly, most of the people wouldn't understand it anyway.
Right.
So, but that's the basics. That's the basics in the coon hunting. They have a lot of hunts. When I was a kid, we only had a couple hunts of a weekend. Well, now I can hunt 6 nights a week. I was at a hunt Tuesday night. Matter of fact, they're hour hunts. There's hunts every weekend, 6 nights a week. It's big money anymore. Big money. They're going to have a hunt at Quapaw, Oklahoma. The entry fee's $10,000. You get a hunt 3 nights on $10,000. Last year, when this is how crazy this sport has got. They have a $10,000 entry fee, and they filled the hunt up in 24 hours.
Wow.
I mean,
wow.
That's a lot.
That's mind-blowing to think that they filled. Now, I think they only hunted 16 dogs.
Yeah.
It may have been 24. And I may be off on the amount of dogs, but I think it was 16 or 24 dogs, and they was $10,000 entry fee, and in 24 hours they had every spot filled.
Goodness.
That's just insane. Now, a few years ago, they had a hunt that was $6,500 entry fee, which is bad enough. And one guy had, I think, 4 dogs in it. And he owns a Pepsi distribution down at, I think it's either North Alabama or Tennessee. So he's rich, and he buys dogs and pays people to hunt them. But he had, I think it was 4 dogs at $6,500 in that hunt. To hunt. I mean, it's just insane anymore. There's a guy in Florida. He used to do race horses, and I don't know how many hounds he owns now. And he's give big money for them. Got guys going all over the country hunting these hunts. Matter of fact, his dog was the one I'm pretty sure just won that truck over in. I think it may have been in Oklahoma, but I think it was in Arkansas this weekend. I know Dewell Murphy's his handler, and he won it. But he's got dogs all over the country, and it has given. I've heard $120,000 for some hounds, and then he puts a handler on them, and they go all over the country hunting those hunts and trying to win all that money. It's really, really weird. If you would have told me when I was 13 years old that, hey, Aaron, they're going to sell dogs for $100,000 one of these days, and you can win $100,000 in one weekend, I'd said you're a lying sack of shit. There's no way. What are you talking about? Like, there's no way. This is insane. And as crazy as I hate saying it, it's here, and it's really, really. It probably ain't too odd to most people that's never coon hunted, but to a coon hunter that grew up, where we was proud to get $10 for a hide, now they're worth nothing, and now people are giving, $50,000 for a dog. It's just really weird how it's evolved in the last 30 years. You know what I'm saying? Just really, really weird. It's a good thing. I'm not griping. It's a good thing because it's what's driving the coon hunting now.
Right.
Coon prices sure ain't driving it. So these you listen to these old timers complain. They're like, oh, money's ruining the sport. Money's ruining the sport. Money is what's making the sport. That's what's keeping these kids interested. Mm-hmm. And what drives my ass about these old timers, they'll say money's ruining the sport. But my argument to them is, you quit coon hunting when coons were worth $40. You hunted. When they went to nothing, you quit hunting. So you were hunting for money too,
right? Yeah.
Like they don't even, a lot of them don't even comprehend that. It's like, dude, you were hunting for money because when they, like all your buddies that quit, and your brother that quit hunting, and your dad that quit hunting, they were hunting for money. That's why they coon hunted for $40 a coon. When coons went to nothing, you guys, most of you quit. So you guys were hunting for money, but like they can't put that together. That money was driving it then, money's driving it now. And guys, let's be serious. Money drives the world.
Sure.
It doesn't matter what it is. Money drives the world. And these young kids that are getting into coon hunting and stuff, yeah, they want to enjoy coon hunting, but they like to comp hunt. Mm-hmm. Most kids would probably prefer to comp hunt as to just pleasure hunting. You know what I'm saying? Most people I know of, if you said, hey, you're never going to comp hunt again, a lot of them would quit because they want to comp hunt.
Right. So how long does it take to get a dog ready for these competition hunts?
Anymore, in the old days, 2 or 3 years old, but the dogs, we've got them bred up so much, to my opinion, better. The old timers claim the dogs in the 70s were better, but they're full of crap. The dogs that are now, at Super Stakes, matter of fact, Super Stakes is going on right now. That's PKC, Professional Kennel Club. They're hunting dogs that are 12 months old.
Oh, wow.
Up there. Now, my opinion, I would not take a 12-month. Now, take a 12-month-old pup and hunt it in some hunts. I don't have a problem with that. Take a 12-month-old pup and hunt it nonstop in the hunts, to me, is not doing it any favors. It's not mature enough. It ain't old enough. It's easy to run, because they're a puppy. You could get it with a mean dog. Just, what I'm saying? Now, there's guys that do it, and that's their prerogative. I mean, I don't care if it's their dog. They can hunt it as hard as they want. Now, but me, I'm not a big fan of pushing a pup, nonstop in the hunts. It's
Right.
not a good environment for them. You know, I mean, it's like taking your 5-year-old kid and making them play baseball 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it normally don't end good.
Right. No, it
You know,
doesn't. Right.
you burn-
Too much.
You know, you burn them out the whole night. Now, some kids, you know, are kind of a freak and they can handle it and they love it. And some of the dogs are like that. But most puppies that are 12 months old is not meant to go to a comp hunt every night of the week. They just ain't.
What happens on these contests if you've got one dog hits a tree, trees a coon, and another dog trees another coon? Can you get the first strike and get this, or can you get second on strike and first on the tree?
Yes, if the dog split tree, let's go. We'll go back to me and you. If we was in a hunt, say my dog Rock was to tree, and your dog trailed over here to the left, say 200 yards and gets tree, I would get first tree and you would get first tree.
Mm-hmm.
Now our strike would be whatever you struck in for. Say I struck in first for first strike, you strike in for second, you would carry second strike, and you would go in for if we can plainly tell, you know, if I say tree Rock and all of a sudden you say, hey judge, tree so and so, and we can plainly tell that dog stays over 200 yards, he's going to put you in for 125 because we know your dog is split treed.
Right.
So there's no reason to go in. So we would put you in for 125. Now, let's say they were 900 yards in there, and I say tree Rock, and you say tree Obel, and we can't tell they're split, then I would go in for first. You would go in for second. But now, say we get in there to score them, and Obel's over there 50 yards treed, then the judge would automatically move you up to 125 too, because she's over here by herself. Now, if another dog was, say my dog's treed to the right, say you treed yours and we got in and your co-host there treed, and say we get in there and I'm on my tree by myself, so I'd go to 125, you would go to 125, and your co-host would move up to second tree if he treed in after you.
Well, this has been a very educational deal. I've learned a whole lot about this. I didn't know nothing about coon hunting. And I mean, I knew about coon hunting, but the trials is a whole different thing, and I've learned a lot on this. It's interesting.
But I mean, I've just scratched the surface, honestly, on the rules and how it would work. Because, like I said, I hate to get too far in the weeds because it would get pretty confusing for somebody that's never, you know, your audience has never done it. But that's kind of the gist of the hound, the coon hound world.
The amount of money is what's crazy in it all. For something not a lot of people do.
It is. The most I've ever personally hunted for was 3 years ago. I got a truck ticket, which a truck ticket is they take the money winningest dogs per month. So they take 64 dogs. They take like 5 dogs a month, and you have to win so much money. This is in PKC, Professional Kennel Club, and you get a hunt for a truck, and it's called the truck hunt. Getting a ticket alone just to go is like prestigious, because not everybody gets a ticket. A lot of people try and don't get them, and I ended up getting a ticket, and I got to go to Dumas, Arkansas, and I got to hunt for a pickup, probably a $45,000 truck, and I was the only blue tick there out of 64 dogs, and I won second. I come within about 30 minutes of winning a brand new truck.
Damn it!
And it was pretty exciting. I was the only blue tick there. I'm probably the only blue tick that's ever even won second at the truck. Matter of fact, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I may be the only blue tick that's ever even been in the final 4 at the truck hunt. So that was pretty awesome, and it was kind of a crazy deal. We was down at Dumas, Arkansas, and I got in the final 4. It was just me, and it was me. I was blue tick and 3 Walker dogs, because Walker dogs dominate the sport by far. By far, they dominated. We drove up a great big old levee. I don't know, guys, that thing may have been 50 or 60 vertical feet. Mm-hmm. And when we come off of it, we was between the levee and the Mississippi River. And so that levee run, I'm guessing, north, and so did the river, you know, and good hunting in there. And we cut the dogs. Let me back up into what's crazy is my stomach had bothered me all day. I thought, damn, I hope I'm not getting sick. And my belly bothered me all day. And guys, when I unsnapped that old dog of mine, and he left my hand, my belly quit hurting me just like snapping your fingers. I did not realize that was my nerves bothering me, but it was.
Getting all worked
and
up.
I was fine. And it was kind of a crazy deal. A dog treated a coon, two dogs treated a blank. My dog treated a coon to our left, and we went to him and scored him. He had a coon. And when I recut him, instead of going north, and I'm not mad at him because he didn't know where to go. He'd never been there. Instead of going on north, hunting up the river, he went south, back across the road we drove in on. And I asked the guide, I said, hey, what's over there? And he said, water. And I said, can you treat a coon? He said, yeah, but he said, you'll be swimming the whole time. He said, the water's deep over there. And I thought, well, I'm screwed. Well, he finally come back across the road. He never did get treated, thank God. Well, I mean, it would have been nice if he would have, because if he'd had a coon, I'd have won. But he finally come out of that deep water and come back over there, and the hunt got over. And anyway, if he'd have went north, now he may not have treated a coon, but if he would have went north, I feel like I would have possibly could have won that truck. But it just wasn't meant to be. But I still won second, and that was pretty impressive. I didn't much like hunting right against the Mississippi River, but it was still good hunting. When we pulled in there, we kicked a rock down to the river. And I asked the guide, I said, what the hell happens if a dog gets in the damn river? And he goes, well, you'll be getting it out of the Gulf of Mexico. And I thought, well, this is a good place to guide to. I mean, because you don't know where a coon's going to go.
Right.
Now, I had talking about water. One night we was at Stockton Lake, and my old hound, he swam. I ain't seen it very often, but he swam about 400 yards across Stockton Lake, and which really blew me away that he done that. I don't know why he done it, but he swam about a quarter of a mile across it. I thought he'll drown. He'll be dead, but he made it across. We got in the truck and drove around, and when I come around the old dirt road, I had my window down, and I could hear him treat. He had two coons treat out. Thank God there wasn't no boats on the lake, because if one of them would have went down the lake, they'd have probably swamped him, and drowned him.
Boy, that's no shit.
But that's the only time he ever swum it. I don't know if the coon swum it. I don't really know why he done it. Speaking of crazy things, a buddy of mine, he lost one in the strip pit at Clinton, Missouri. Though it was in the middle of winter, and a coon drowned it. His dog pushed it underwater and drowned it.
Damn.
He's still in the bottom of the strip pit. Yeah, it was a crazy deal. They got out there. His name's Mike Stepp, and he's hunting with Leland Wallace. Mike's a good buddy of mine, and they got out. I don't know why they were out there. I don't know if they squalled the coon out or what, but anyway, the dog, they seen it. They was there. The dog got out in the pit and was swimming after the coon and caught up to it. And the dog come up. Mike and Leland said the dog come up with a coon on its head. It went down. It come up, went down, and the coon come up and swam to the shore, and the dog never come up.
Son of a bitch.
And
wow.
He drowned it.
I didn't know that was a thing.
That don't happen very often.
Right.
But I don't know. I'm not going to tell you the coon drowned the dog on purpose. I think what normally happens in that case is that, like a drowning victim, they always say, watch out because they'll drown you because they're panicking. And
yeah.
I think the coon basically is just climbing. I don't think the coon's brain actually says, if I shove this dog under the water, he's going to drown.
Sure.
I think the coon is climbing to the highest spot, just like a drowning victim does.
Right. Yeah.
And they drown the dog. But what was crazy, to kind of tell a funny story, Mike was jerking his clothes off and was going to get out in this strip pit. Guys, we don't know if it's 10 foot deep or 1,000 foot deep. I mean, you don't know. It's full of water. But Mike and Leland was telling the story, and Mike was jerking his clothes off and was going to try to go out in the middle of this strip pit in the middle of winter, which he would have froze to death and drowned.
Mm-hmm.
So Leland, he's a good friend of ours at Coon Hunted. He jumped on him and brought him to his senses, like, Mike, or whatever. I wasn't there, but I can imagine he was like, you cannot get in the strip pit, you'll die. And he was telling this story down at the tire shop where all of us coon hunters would stop and loaf about hounds, and everybody was like, Leland, I mean, that's such a good job. You saved Mike's life by not letting him get in the strip pit. And Leland, he just blurted out. He goes, well, Mike had the car keys. And so we got tickled. We're like, he wasn't, instead of just taking his compliments, he just had to save the car keys and save them anyway. It ain't that funny probably to most people, but it was hilarious when Leland blurted out, he had the car keys.
Yeah, right. I can't let this guy. He's my ride back.
Yeah. So anyway, but anyway, the poor guy, luckily Leland was there to stop him or he'd have killed himself trying to save that stew. The thing was the dog was already drowned. I mean, there was no saving him.
Yeah.
He was gone. A good friend of mine, he lost a dog 3 or 4 years ago. He was at a big hunt down south. They think he got in a hole. He was pretty expensive. Matter of fact, he's the guy that sold a third of his dog for $40,000, but he had got in a hole, they're thinking, and maybe the water come up and he finally found him, and he died. And we're pretty sure he probably got in a hole and probably got a lot of water in his lungs, and he died. You don't hear a lot of people losing hounds, but it's honestly a miracle that we don't lose a hound every time we go coon hunting for what they do. For what they do and how they do it, going and trailing down the top of bluffs. I've had my dog tree right on the edge of a bluff, 40 or 50 foot vertical bluff, and it's like, it's a miracle all they had to do is to stumble and fall and they'd been dead. It's really a miracle we even get our hounds to a ripe old age, honestly.
Right.
The crap that they do. And I don't know too, you guys, of course you guys are around bird dogs and stuff. Our coon dogs are like, their mentality is totally different. They're not good house dogs. You'll find some that are. They don't normally make good house dogs. They are so amped up. We've not bred them to be house dogs or pets. We've bred them to be hunting dogs. Their mentality is quite a bit different. But, for a dog to do what they do, trailing up rivers, crossing rivers, swimming lakes, fighting a coon, they got a different, they got to be a little bit different than most dogs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, that all makes perfect sense.
Yeah. They've got my sister, it's kind of funny. She said, "You're rough on your dogs." And I said, "I'm not rough on my dogs." I said, "You've never handled coon hounds." I said, "These are not toy breeds or, pet, like lap dogs." I said, these are different.
Right.
Like they don't, I said, you just can't take a newspaper and say, bad dog. Like that won't even phase. Now, some of them it will, but most of them are like, so my sister got my nephew a coon dog. And let me give you some advice. A few months of that thing, she's ready to kill it. It would get out of the pen. It would actually go to school and look in the front door, and the receptionist, which is actually a cousin of ours, would get on the reception and say, "Preston, your dog's here." And they would have to come to school and get his dog and take it home. And she was ready to kill it. And she finally was like, "I finally understand what you're telling me." I said, "Yes, these are not lap dogs." I said, "They're, they got like a one-track mind." Have you ever heard a hound tree?
No.
You ever watched a video? Well, you can get on YouTube and watch videos. There's a bitch on YouTube. You actually just look up the hardest tree dog alive, and I counted. She barks 122 times a minute.
Goodness.
Sounds like a machine gun.
Right.
But
yeah.
For an animal or a human or anything to stand at a tree and bark 120 times a minute for a long time. I mean, I don't shoot a state tree till you got there. I mean, you're on a different level of insanity. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it takes a whole different mindset. Like they're to me, they're like they got a one track mind. Like, I'm treed, I'm staying treed, and I'm not leaving until my owner comes and gets me. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if it takes 5 minutes or it takes 2 hours, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to tree every breath until he gets here. and it takes a different, that's a whole level of, I wouldn't call it crazy per se, but a whole, you know what I'm saying? It takes a whole different level of psyche for a dog to do that than fetch a ball in your backyard. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
Just so they're really, and you got to handle them different. And like I said, some are good natured where you can spat them a little bit and they get it. And some, I've seen guys, like she got a shocking collar, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with them with your bird dog, run a coyote or a deer and you shock them and make them stop. And an hour later they run another deer and you shock them. And tomorrow night they're running another deer, or the next night they're running a coyote. It's because they're hard headed, and it's like, it takes a long time to to get it through their head, like, hey, we're not running coyotes and deer, we're running coons here, bud. So they're just it's some of them are easy to train. Some like my hounds, they're naturally straight. I've got a bitch at home right now that's 2.5 years old, and I've been hunting her since she's been 12 months, and she's never treated a possum. Now she may tree one tonight since I said that, but she's never treated a possum to this day. I've had other dogs tree a possum, and she went on to tree a coon. So she's just naturally not interested in the possum. All she's going to do is tree a coon. Never. They did run a coyote or deer one night. But she was just basically naturally straight on coon. Why they're like that, I don't know. Some dogs are junky. Used to when I was a kid, we mentioned skunks earlier. A lot of dogs would shake skunks, but you don't really. I guess we've just bred it out of them and bred the coon in them so much that I don't hardly see dogs shaking skunks anymore. We're used to. Damn, it seemed like every time you went, somebody's dog was shaking a friggin' skunk. And the bad thing about a skunk is you can't lie out of a skunk.
No.
If you tree a possum the night, you tree a possum the night before, you don't tell nobody. Well, yeah, we didn't have a very good hunt. Well, if you shake a skunk, they know you're lying if you say you didn't do nothing, because all you got to do is sniff your dog box or your truck, because it's all over it. So you don't ever want to run a skunk because you can't lie out of them.
No, you're screwed on that one.
Yeah, you're for about a week normally.
Yeah.
You're shit out of luck.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
So anyway,
well, listen, man, I did not know that all this went into coon hunting and to coon dogs. So this has been a fascinating podcast.
Very educational. We appreciate you being on here, and maybe one of these days I'm going to come up and go to a coon. I'd like to go to see a coon trial one night.
All you got to do is let me know. Where do you guys live? What part of Texas, Rob?
Northwest Texas.
Wichita Falls.
West of Wichita Falls.
Okay, so I've been through Wichita a few times. I went down and hunted exotics down at Brady, Texas.
Well, if I get up that way, I'm going to holler at you and let you know when I'm up that way. We appreciate you being on here and taking some time out of your day to share with us.
Oh, you're no big deal. You guys, hold on. I'm not quite done. You do bird hunting, right?
Yes, sir.
I was wanting to talk about avian flu. You got time, or you done?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Honestly, I've got time. If you want to talk about a little bit about the avian flu, because that's a big deal in the bird world.
Yeah, go ahead.
Last year, the migration's starting again here now. The birds are starting to migrate again, so we're going to have cases of bird flu pop up. Last year, millions of birds were killed, millions. And, you'd get on Facebook and people would talk about it's a conspiracy theory to drive prices up and this and that. That is a load of crap. The migratory bird, now, the reason I know this is I got 45,000 laying hens at home. I grow I'm not going to say the company's name, but I'm contracted to a company, and I've got a lot of laying hens. Luckily, we did not get bird flu, so I'm kind of in the know of the avian flu. What happens is the birds migrate. They go north. They intermingle. The avian flu is waterfowl are the natural reservoir for avian flu. That's why when you hear guys say or read on Facebook, well, why ain't the waterfowl dying? It's because they're used to it. They have it every year. They spread it amongst themselves. It's kind of like when we first got COVID, people died. Now nobody's dying from COVID.
Right.
Because
herd immunity.
Our bodies yes. The birds have herd immunity, but our chickens do not have herd immunity because they have never seen, their body has never seen the avian flu, ever. Since the day they were born, they've never been introduced to the avian flu. So when they get it, they have a mass die-off. So what happens is the birds go north, they mingle around like waterfowl do. You guys know how they interact better than I do. They spread it amongst themselves, and then when they come back to the flyway, they spread avian flu from the Arctic, I guess, all the way back to South America, spreading that virus. Mm-hmm. Some years are worse than others.
Right.
So these guys that are like, this is a conspiracy, and they're full of it. It is very real. It is very bad. And you hear guys say, I read so much stuff on Facebook, I got sick of commenting on it. They would say, well, why do they kill, say you got a house of 50,000 broiler chicks. Why do they kill them all? The guys, if you got 50,000 chickens in a barn and you go in there and test 100 of them and say 20 of them pop up with avian flu, you would have to kill those 20 if you could even find them again.
Right.
Then you would have to test immediately tomorrow another 50,000. Well, by tomorrow, guys, that's such a fast spreading respiratory virus. Tomorrow there may be 2,000 of them that's got it. Well, then time you test them and try to isolate those. Now the other, you see what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. You got the quickest way is just to eliminate them.
You got to eliminate them. There is no going in there. There's no way a company can go in there and you take an 8-house broiler farm that has 400 to 500,000 chicks on it. They cannot go in there every day and swab them for the virus.
That makes sense.
It's impossible. And even if you did find the few that are sick, the time, say you go in there and see 100 of them that are sick and coughing or whatever, and you get them out, well, guess what? Those 100 have already spread it to 10,000 or 2,000 or 50. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
It's impossible. They have to cull them all.
So how do the chickens get it from waterfowl?
Like a farm not far from us had turkeys, and they got it from waterfowl. I'm sure.
Gotcha. So something else. Right. So something else gets it from waterfowl, and then that spreads it to the chickens.
Yes, basically the waterfowl bring it back, other birds bring it back, and then they give it to the robins or sparrows or starlings. The starling flies into the barn, flies up next to the curtains, and it's respiratory. Right. Now, when Opal Foods had west of my house, they kill 4.5 million birds over there. I was told it got really cold for a couple of days, and they have exhaust fans up on the upper deck, and wild birds got around those exhaust fans because it was warm, right, from the heat from the barn. Yeah. And when the other fans would come in, and it just sucked the virus right into the top level of those chickens, and it just started and then it just took off. Now there was a guy named, which he pissed me off every time I'd listen to his shit on Facebook. The lunatic farmer. Anyway, he ran a podcast, and he said on his podcast that it always starts in chicken houses, like he was bad-mouthing commercial chicken houses. But he's full of shit, because say I've got a commercial chicken house. They were swabbing my birds every other day. Every other day they was coming and pulling swabs to make sure I didn't have avian flu. Say you and your partner there on the podcast has 100 birds in your backyard. Nobody's swabbing them. Right. Nobody. So say you get it and 10 of your birds die. What do? You pick them up, you throw them over the fence, and let the coons and the possums eat them. Mm-hmm. You didn't know you had bird flu. Right. You probably did. So for him and these other people to say, oh, nope, it's just commercial chicken houses, that is a load of crap, and that's false information, and they're full of shit. There's no other. They're either full of shit or they're lying. Which one it is, I don't know. But it's not right. Like I said, you got all these guys, Amish people, all these people across the countryside with backyard birds. Nobody is testing those birds. And like I said, if they lose a few, they throw them over the fence. No big deal. Right. They're not calling not EPA, but the health department to have them tested. Mm-hmm. They're only testing us, so of course we're the only ones showing avian flu. We're the only ones being tested. Right. So, but these guys it just gripes my ass that they're saying that crap to people when they simply don't know what they're talking about.
Well, now everybody knows. Now everybody knows how that happened. It's not just in chicken houses. It's that's the only place that they're looking for it. So, perfect.
Yeah, and now let me say this: I have heard of people that have several birds call the health department, because there has been some backyard flocks that the health department come out and tested. But for the most part, we were getting tested every other day, so they know we have it. Where, like I said, the private public, I'll call them, they're not being tested. Now, like I said, I do know the health department found a few backyard flocks that had avian flu. But but they're not doing a mass testing like they are us.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that all makes perfect sense.
I just wanted to bring that up because I knew you guys were waterfowl hunters, and I'm sure here in the next month or two, avian flu is going to get back in everybody's mind because it's going to probably start spreading again. And then they would say, well, why was it just United States? Well, several years ago, Mexico got hit hard. We didn't. Mm-hmm. Some years, if you'll notice, Europe will get hit hard, and we won't get hard. Mexico won't get hit hard. It's just like any virus, guys. Just like EHD. Ohio, I think, is having a big EHD outbreak. Well, we ain't. You guys, I don't think are. Next year, it may be us. That's just how viruses and disease work. They don't just hit you got hot spots and it moves around. So anyway, I wanted to kind of throw that out there a little bit about the avian influenza. And most people also, I'll explain this real quick. They don't understand why it's so big of a deal with avian flu. Avian flu, or flu in general, can mutate and hit humans. That's why Newcastle's, several other diseases, they don't care about. You know what I'm saying? They're not, there's a term, I can't remember the term. It really don't jump species. The flu can jump from species to species. That's why they are so scared of a flu outbreak. That's why, they go nuts with a flu outbreak. The swine flu in 1918, was it 18 or 14? It killed 40 million people worldwide, in World War I, and it was the swine flu. When H5N1 broke out in China, and I'm going to try to quote this by memory, I think it had a 60% death rate. Now, at that time, you only got the flu. It could only go from chicken to human. It did not mutate to go human to human. But let's think about this. COVID had about a 1% death rate. Mm-hmm. Could you imagine if that flu would have mutated where it could have jumped from human to human and had, forget 60%, what if it had a 5% death rate?
Oh, yeah. We'd have been going crazy.
So that's why you, when you hear about poultry or swine, the flu is the main one that really scares the hell out of the public health officials. Is because it's I wish I could remember the exact word they use, but it can jump species through the species barrier and then mutate into different species. So that's one reason why, like I said, that because you hear of E. coli, salmonella, they don't give a crap about that. That don't mean nothing. MGMS doesn't mean anything, but the bird flu, very, very critical deal, and that's why.
Right.
So,
well, we appreciate you setting the record straight, and we appreciate your time here. And be safe out there in your next coon hunting trip. Be good luck on you, and I hope all your dogs stay safe.
Well, I do too. And like I said, you ever come to Missouri and want to go coon hunting, all you got to do is call me. I'm more than welcome to take you.
Awesome.
And all you got to do is call. I'll take any time. I'll take you pleasure hunting, or you can go on a comp hunt. It does not matter. I'll take anybody that wants to go.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. You have a great rest of your day, sir.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Jeff had to step out for a phone call, so that is it. We hope everybody's doing well. Have a great week. We love you. Goodbye. Watch for deer.